All right, we're taking a poll. Who thinks to know where we're up to? Wow, the one guy who's got a bookmark is the only one who thinks to know where we're up to.
No, I know.
That is sad news,
Still
folks.
have a book.
Oh,
I have a picture from the week before, but I wasn't here last week.
that's great. Thanks, Herbie. That's really helpful. You do not have a book. Oh, we need to order a couple more books? We can order a few more books. That's not a big deal. We can handle that. Okay. All right. So nobody? No takers?
We said we're repeating Gimel. So we're up to dollar.
$1.62. Thank you.
Okay.
62?
Doc, you've been out a little bit.
I know. So we had already started this page.
Correct.
And finished it.
Yeah. He's going to recap it for you, though.
Really? He does that?
Once in a while. All right.
The level of snark today is like,
It's up there. Well, we got a double dose of Krakow. That's what's going to happen.
don't bring her into this. She is nothing.
No, because she brings it out of him.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. You'll see. You'll see. There's no other way he could possibly be the way he is. There's no other
On
way.
her.
Somebody has to fire the flames.
That's right.
I'm not saying another word.
It worked.
Yes!
Did it.
Oh, you didn't use it.
All right. Doc, if you don't ask questions, we kick you out. That's the rule.
Yeah. Bingo.
And Jody, that goes for you too.
Okay, fine.
All right, here we go. So, what we learned previously was that mankind is currently, meaning from the moment of the sin of Adam and on, mankind is in a world, in a state, A, and then a world, B, of physicality. The physicality is predominant, the physicality is primary, and the world around us, the world that we live in, and the interactions that we have are with physical phenomena. And as he explained, the physicality is, in a way, obscuring the light of Hashem, and Hashem being purely spiritual, anything physical which is a creation of His is, in a way, an obscuring of His greatness. So, when we are born into this world, we have extremely limited connection or strength in our neshama, a very limited connection with and strength of the neshama. As we see, a baby is incapable of much thought at all, certainly no intelligence, and it's something that needs to develop. But the physicality is all there, right? A baby is just as physical as an adult is, and the world around the baby is just as physical as an adult is. It's the intellect, it's the mind, it's the neshama, it's the connection to spirituality that needs to develop. So you can have people who go through their entire lives without ever getting in touch with their neshama. And they end just as physically as they started. Now, what he's saying here is that essentially that is the natural course of events. Because really, that's the world around us. That's the world we're forced into. Not only from our surroundings, but even within ourselves, we are predominantly physical. And the spirituality is something that we have to search to find. It's not the kind of thing that's inherently found and obvious to anybody. It's something that you have to look for, you have to find, you have to develop. In addition, we have responsibilities in life that are necessities. We have to live in order to live, and in order to live, we have to do things to keep us alive. So we have to earn a living so we can afford to buy shelter and food, clothing, etc. These are all necessities of life. And again, we don't have that on the spiritual side. There is no necessity to have this urge to daven, right? There's no necessity to learn it unless it's something that you decide on your own. It's not a physical need that we feel drawing us, like hunger, or like thirst, or like cold, etc. All these things, these are things that generate physical reactions that spirituality doesn't have. So what he's saying is that it's very clear that the primacy of physicality is very pronounced, very obvious in our lives. Now, as we explained last week, the conclusion that would come from this discussion would seem to be living a minimalist lifestyle, living a lifestyle which has a. We got to get quieter chairs. Which is a lifestyle that would really shun physicality and all physical activity and stuff. And that's what would seem to come from this discussion. It would seem to make sense that if the darkness of physicality is something that we need to work against, then it would seem logically that the ideal way to do that would be to abstain from as much physical activity and connection as we can. That would seem to be the logical outcome. Okay? And that's really where we ended last week, but we did just foreshadow a bit into Dalet over here, which says that that's not actually the case. That's not the way it works. But I need everybody to understand what he's coming to exclude, what he's coming to say that this is not what you would think. So again, just to recap, what you would think is that since physicality is the darkness, physicality is the opposite of what Hashem wants from us, then the ideal lifestyle would be one that doesn't have physicality to it, or the bare minimum that is possible. That's what logic would dictate. Okay? That's where we're at? Anybody with me? Anyone else? Okay. All right. Well, in that case, let's continue.
So now we're starting from Dalet?
We are now starting from Dalet, yes. Everybody got it?
Yep.
Dalet for dogs. All right, here we go.
Really?
V'ulam.
Whatever.
Your Honor.
That's right. Hey. V'ulam. However, may I make atzas chachmatza yizbarach shemai. Because of the depth of the wisdom of Hashem, haya l'sader hadvarim ba'ayfen. Hashem's wisdom decided that the world should be set up in a way she'af b'hiyais ha'adam shukua b'chaymer b'hachrech, even though a person is completely stooped in physicality, and that is not by choice, that is a necessity. That's how life works. We have to eat. We have to have shelter. We have to breathe. We have to have all the physical things that we need in order to live. And we have to do all the things that will allow us to accomplish all of that. So we have to work, whatever it is. So these are all things that we have to do, as we've explained. Yuchal, it is still possible. From the physicality itself, and the physical actions that we do with our bodies, hasig es hashlemus, we can actually achieve the perfection, v'hahisalos, and the elevation, el hazoich ve'elamayla, to purity and to high levels. V'adrab, and on the contrary, hashpalasai tiag v'hasai, the going down, the physical, that which is beneath, that will be the growth. That will be what raises a person up. Umisham, and from there itself, therein a person will yikne yakar v'kavich and kamayu, acquire glory and honor that there is no equal. When a person changes the darkness into light, that's a talmaves l'noiga yizrach, and the shadow of death will be a shining, a bright shine. So, what he said here is that it's not simply that we want to avoid physicality because physicality is the opposite of Hashem and spirituality, but on the contrary, Hashem's wisdom dictated that the physicality itself should be the vehicle through which we grow. So it's not about avoiding physicality, it's about using the physicality for spirituality, and that, he says, will raise a person to a higher level than would have otherwise been possible. Meaning, there's a difference between existing in a spiritual world and doing everything spiritually, and existing in a physical world and still doing things spiritually. There is a greater growth that a person experiences when they take that which is essentially the opposite of spirituality and transforms it into spirituality. That's a greater growth than a person who's simply in a spiritual realm. And Rav Chaim Friedlander writes that this was actually the discussion that the angels had with Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu went up to Har Sinai, and he went to go receive the Torah, and the angels protested. They said, what's this man born of a woman? What's he doing up here amongst the angels in the spiritual realm? And Hashem told them he's here to take the Torah down. They said, what? How can the Torah go down? Meaning to say, what was their complaint? They were saying Torah is spirituality. How can Torah possibly exist in a physical world? Physicality is the opposite of what Torah is all about. And Hashem told Moshe to answer them, and Moshe said, we have the ability in this world to accomplish greater things than you, the angels, can accomplish in the spiritual world. Because we can take physical things and we can elevate them. We can take the most base animalistic things and we can make them spiritual. We can turn eating into a mitzvah. It's like opposites. Eating is the most base, animalistic, physical thing a person can do, and it can become the most spiritual experience a person can have. And that's what Moshe was telling them. That's not something you guys can accomplish. You can only accomplish that which exists in the spiritual realm. You can't do what it takes in the physical realm because you're not physical. You can't do that. So it's only we who live in this physical world that are able to bring the Torah to its greatest level of fulfillment. So that's what he's saying over here. If a person views the world as physicality as a bad thing, then they're missing the point. Because the point of us being here in this world is to take the physicality and make it spiritual.
But there are very specific things in the physical world that, because you talk a lot about food or like, the things that you buy to enhance Shabbos, stuff like that. But there are materialistic things in this world that will not.
Yes, there are definitely things that we need to avoid. And we're going to talk, that's going to be the next thing we're going to talk about, exactly how to work the whole physical turning into spiritual thing. That's where he's going. It's certainly not the case that everything physical can become spiritual. But, well, in a way they kind of can. We'll see. We'll see. Okay, so is this clear? Have we gotten our clarification over here?
Yep.
So it's not about avoiding physicality, it's about turning physicality into spirituality. Huh?
Here's my trip to the back to be a monk.
Yeah, well, instead you could take a trip to Disney.
I mean, you'd have to be silent. You couldn't talk. That'd be hard. Can't see that.
Actually, another thing that Rav Chaim Friedlander mentions, he says, and I'll just read you the English translation over here. He says, this is unlike the belief of other nations that to achieve holiness, one must completely withdraw from the physical world and live the life of an ascetic. This is in contrary to that. Very much so. You're welcome. All right.
Oh my gosh.
Come on, Jody. Tell him how it is.
He knows.
He knows.
He knows.
It doesn't matter. You still have to tell people, even things that they know. All right, let's continue. Vizeh. And this is as follows. Ki habayra yisbarach shemai, because Hashem some gevulos usidarim la'adam. Hashem made boundaries and processes for man. What are boundaries and processes? Boundaries are places that you cannot go, and processes are things that you should do. So boundaries are the negatives, the things that we should not be going to, and the processes, the things that we should be doing, but there's a way to do it. Okay, so Hashem has given us boundaries and processes. So what are they? In the interactions that we have with this world and the things that are created in the world, and with the intentions that we have when we are interacting with the things in this world. That when a person does use the things in this world, with the boundaries that Hashem set, and with the processes that Hashem set up, and with the intention that Hashem commanded, then this actual physical action that a person is going to do, that will accomplish perfection for a person. And with that, a person will incorporate a degree of perfection that is extremely elevated. And he will be able to rise up from his lowly state through this, and can become great because of this. Okay, so essentially what he's saying here is Hashem designed the world in a way that all of the physical things that exist have guidelines. Certain things we need to stay away from, certain things we need to do and be involved with in a certain way, and there always has to be a particular intention with these activities. But when you do all of that right, that itself becomes the medium of growth. That is how we achieve perfection, and that level that we can attain there is greater than even that which the angels are able to achieve. Okay? So it's a whole different experience. You must have something to say. Where does sleep fit into all this? All right. However, Hishkiva hachachma ha'alyayna al kol kololei hachasroinais hamudboim binyanei shel adam. Hashem, in His wisdom, saw all of the chesronos, the things that are missing, that which is the frailties, that which can cause loss, that are natural to man and the world in which we live. V'al kol inyonei hamayla v'hayikar ha'amiti hamitztarchim lai. And all of the greatness and the glory and the truth that a person needs in that world, in order for the person to become connected to Hashem, and to take pleasure in Hashem's goodness.
What does that mean?
That means we're going to pause for a minute.
Once in Deacon.
The next thing must be amazing.
Yeah.
Please pay attention. Yes. Please pay attention. Yes.
All right, we're going to take a lunch break.
There he goes.
Okay, so ukeneged zeh, and based on this assessment of the world, of all the things that will bring a person down, all the challenges that a person will have, and all the things that will elevate a person and bring him closer to Hashem, after taking all of that into account, keneged zeh sidra le'sidarim. That's what Hashem created, the processes that we have to have, v'higbila le'gvulos, and made the boundaries that we have to have, asher b'shamrei aisam, that when we are able to do them, yis'atzem by kol ma shetzarech min hamaylo ha'amiti shezacharnu. A person will be able to grow with all the levels of growth that are possible, as we mentioned. You don't like this very much, do you?
Wasn't it that couple that just came in?
This is it.
Get him.
Look for a Clemson fan.
Clemson's no good anyway.
Yeah.
Right? They know them without, what's his face? Trevor Lawrence. Sorry, that was his name. So the thing is, it's still flashing, so it's going to, like...
It's going to do it again.
I'll do it again.
All right. Okay. So...
Your pickup truck making all that noise out there? Said, yep, it's my dog, I know.
Oh.
Tell him to leave the dog here. We'll hold on to him. All right.
I
So...
want some coffee.
So by doing this, a person will be able to reach the greatest heights that are possible for a human being to reach. And he will desist from all of the things that will separate him from Hashem. So, obviously we're talking about the mitzvahs over here. We're talking about the mitzvahs, and we're describing the process that went into the creation of the mitzvahs. The way he's explaining it, the mitzvahs were made with the express goal of keeping a person away from that which will separate him from Hashem and bring him close and make him able to do that which will bring him close to Hashem, and everything will be within his ability. So, meaning to say, as we've explained, a person's here on this world not to scorn the physicality, but to raise the physicality, to use the physicality to grow. And the way to do that is the Torah. The Torah is specifically for understanding these are the things that are bad for your neshama. These are the things that are good for your neshama. These are the intentions you need to have in order to affect your neshama in the best way. When you do all of this, you achieve the growth that you wouldn't have been able to otherwise. We achieve the growth that angels aren't capable of, because we're taking the world around us, the physicality that we are and that we're surrounded by, and we elevate it. And that's what the mitzvahs are all about. So there's the boundaries, those are the negatives, those are the things that we should not be doing. And then there's the processes, these are the things that describe how we are to use the world around us, interact with others, with other things, with people, etc. And then there's the mind. The mind, the element of the mind, of what we're thinking when we do all this. What's our goal? What's our drive? What's making us do what we do? That is a very important, perhaps even the most important element of this process of using the world around us. Okay. Is this clear? Does this make sense? No comments? Wow. You must be sleeping.
I mean, it's pretty clear cut, I feel like. So,
Thanks.
keep going. I mean, it's like, okay, like,
Oh, okay.
you,
Okay.
yeah,
All right.
going.
Moving on.
keep going.
Ve'ilu loy haisa hagezera gezura sheyamas. And if we did not have the decree of death that was put upon man when Adam and Chava sinned in the Garden of Eden, as I mentioned earlier, al yidei hamaisim ha'ela, through these actions, haisa hanashama mischazekes, the neshama itself would become stronger, v'chayshech haguf mischalish, and the darkness of the physicality of the body would diminish, ba'ayfen shahaya mizdakech hayada zikul kamer, to the extent that the spirituality of, or the strength I should say, of the spirituality would become so great that the physicality would simply melt away from before it, and the body would attain purity, it would attain perfection, all through that which the neshama has done. And the two together, body and soul, would achieve a connection with Hashem. But since Hashem did in fact make this decree, this is not the kind of thing that can happen all at once. However, the neshama itself can in fact become stronger through the things that we do and avoiding the things that we don't do. And the body will become purified through the, in potential, and has it within it to become purified. Even though it doesn't actually become purified, as we've learned, the body can't really become purified fully while here in the physical world. So instead, a person can attain a level of perfection that is potential. It's being held onto. That will eventually come out and purify the body and allow a person to achieve perfection, body and soul together, when the time is appropriate, as we've discussed. That is the time of the resurrection.
So, are we saying that the
Absolutely. The body can, as we learned previously, the body can achieve a certain degree of becoming secondary to the neshama.
And we never said this idea. In other words, we said the idea that the neshama can store up, so to speak. And we talked about the idea that maybe the body doesn't need as much. But we never talked about the idea that the body can also store spirituality.
The body's not.
So what's going on with this kayach versus
The body can become purified. B'koyach. Potential. The body, okay, so what that means is that the body is not about gaining strength to become bigger and better. It's about the body losing itself to become secondary to the spirituality. So it's not about the body's growth, like the neshama.
World or this next world?
The purpose of the body.
Okay.
The goal of the body is to become completely secondary to the neshama.
I thought it was I thought the end game was spirituality for the good.
That the body can attain spirituality through being subservient to the neshama.
Okay.
So, like Adam. When Adam was created, his physicality was very thin, very minute. So there was very little physical draw to anything physical, and there was very little physical matter. He shone with a light. He didn't have clothing because he was shining bright. Now, skin can't do that. I mean, it could technically, but that's not right. That's not the way it works. But spirituality was so much